What's up? Welcome back to Tales to Morrow. I am Morrow, your storyteller for today, and we have some RPG horror stories to cover. Also, my friend said apparently need to smile more. Yeah, I hate that. We're not gonna do that. Alright, anyway, let's go ahead and get to the first story. First D&D campaign was just a bad mess. Okay, so I know this story is not as bad as others here, but I still wanted to tell it. A few years ago, I and a friend of mine who DM'd really wanted to play D&D. We asked our friends and almost everyone said sure, so we made our characters and started playing. The character creation was already a pain, to be honest. We weren't allowed to have the same race or class and in our group, so not everyone was able to play a character they wanted to. We did not have a session 0, sadly, and the first session was confusing. Somehow we were on a boat and sailed to a new land, which we didn't know yet, even though most of our characters were from there. Okay, so first of all, session 0 is rather important, and what is this restriction about not having the same, race or class? And that's a weird thing to have, a weird stipulation, but I mean, maybe there's a lore reason for it, I don't know. It's kind of starting off a little bit rocky. Our DM, even though she DM'd a few times already, apparently didn't know how to set encounters. We had to fight against level 3 monsters as a level 1 party, which of course almost led to a TPK. We had to resurrect our party members, but it took time, and they weren't able to play during all this. Okay, hold on one second. Level 1s should not be fighting level 3s, they should be fighting level 1s. You know, D&D Beyond has a little tool for encounters. It's free. It's entirely free. You make an account for free for D&D Beyond, use the encounter tool, and you can figure out the encounters and the balance, especially for your party, to see what's too much and what's not too much. It's not the most accurate tool because a challenge rating is not the greatest measurement of competition for players or balance, but I mean, it's still better than nothing. It's still better than throwing to the wolves at something a level 3 party should be fighting. And this wasn't the only time she stopped people from participating in a session. One session we all got a curse. We were 4 players at the time because the other 2 went on dates and just didn't come to the session mostly. The first curse made the guy so stupid, he literally wasn't able to do anything. The second curse made the bard so fat, she wasn't able to move. My curse was that I was scared of my own face, which was fine until my character was put in a room with mirrors everywhere. Only our paladin had a curse, which didn't affect her. So hey, 1 of 4 people. Our DM also loved to bully a few of the players. She did a part of the session too, which was finally one of the reasons I ended the friendship with her. The character had to fit perfectly into the class stereotypes, which sometimes was fun and sometimes simply annoying. But we fought our way through the impossible encounters and weird challenges. I adopted a kid who I loved, and we reached level 4 or 5, I think. We'll play with the XP system. Then for some reason, she thought it'd be a great idea to let us fall through a portal and land in a different dimension. She took all our levels away, and her description was, "Okay, you all are level 1 again. There are no monsters which you could use for leveling up here. There's a gigantic army of the BBEG who wants to kill you, and the people who live here are so scared there's probably nothing you could do to make them help you." We were just standing there like, what the hell are we supposed to do? She of course didn't help us, so we said that we would like to end the campaign, maybe start another one. She was fine with that, but the second campaign wasn't really fun, and she hated my character now too, so we stopped playing. Another fun thing was that she literally told us everything she planned for the next session, because we were good friends, so I knew everything and it got pretty boring. If your DM friend is telling you things, it's always good to be like, "Hey listen, I would like to play, so don't tell me any spoilers please, if you could. If you could, throw in your party after they worked so hard against the impossible into a place that they started level 0, and there's no way for them to level up, and there's a BBG army." I mean, clearly the DM was like, yeah, this is not going anywhere. I'm gonna make it impossible for them so we can end the campaign early on. I think everybody got fed up with the campaign, including the DM. It's weird that it went this way, but I mean, yeah, I guess it is what it is. Sometimes some campaigns just don't do well, I suppose. My character was almost killed in my first D&D session because I wanted to feed orphans. Content warnings, fictional child death, exclusion. First thing first, but this is not the worst horror story I've ever heard by far. This is still a bit of a sticky experience for me and my friend to have our first time interacting with D&D. I hold no animosity towards anyone in the story, as we were all young and this was years ago. Or rather, I want to share this story to get it off my chest. The characters. Me, playing a beast master ranger with a direwolf animal companion. First time playing D&D. Wizard, playing a wizard as you would guess. First time playing D&D. Barbarian, sibling of DM and rogue. Invited me and Wizard to play and introduced us to the idea of D&D as a whole. Rogue, sibling of DM and Barbarian. Problem in the story along with the DM. And finally, DM, oldest sibling of Barbarian and Rogue. Also is a bit of an issue in the story. Okay, so now for the story. Barbarian, Wizard, and I were all really close friends in middle school. And one day Barbarian brought up that their siblings play Dungeons and Dragons. Wizard and I, not knowing anything about the game, were immediately super interested, and eventually Barbarian invited us to play D&D with the family. During the time leading up to the session, both Wizard and I were super excited. We both tried to learn about the different classes and races as best we could. Both Wizard and I ended up with super basic, practically self-insert characters, but we were both super happy with what we had created. The day of the session arrived, and both Wizard and I were stoked to finally play. But once again, we knew literally nothing about the game. Right off the bat, our party was placed in a relatively open area. If I'm honest, I don't remember why we were just dropped in the open, but as we were trying to figure out what to do, probably within the first 10 minutes or so minutes of the game, Wizard walked forward into a trap that none of the party has seen, was immediately paralyzed. I get if people are new and everything, and you should probably sit down with the new players and explain them general stuff, right? And ease them in. And I'm hoping that this first thing isn't like DM bullying them. But if it is, I'm gonna get mad. I'm gonna get very mad. Obviously, Wizard and I were very caught off guard by this. And when we asked DM what was going on, they responded by saying that we should have done a perception check. Wizard and I were confused, as we had literally no idea what a perception check was at the time, or how we were supposed to make one, but both of us just accepted that we made a mistake and tried to move on. Wizard was eventually released from the paralysis, and the game continued. Yeah, I'm already disliking what the DM is doing. You know what is the worst thing to do? Especially to a new player, or really any player, new or old. Not tell them like, hey, character, roll me a perception check. Just be like, okay, if my players don't roll perception checks, I'm just gonna step them in traps and whatever. How are you players supposed to know when you should be rolling a perception check or not? Should they just be at every step be like, hey DM, perception? Okay, the next step, DM perception? Okay, next step, DM perception in case there are any traps. What kind of a dumb ruling is that? Anyway, let's go on. I'm already getting heated. Eventually, the party came to a town, started to wander towards the nearest tavern to try and figure out what our quest was going to be for the session. Immediately, as we were walking to the city, an orphan kid, described to be no more than 5 or 6, is sad to walk up to my character, specifically only my character. Now, something about my personality is that I have a giant soft spot for children and animals, and almost every character I play shares a sensitivity. As this was my first D&D character, I share practically every trait with my D&D character, and as such, I immediately felt super attached to this little kid. The kid begged for some food, and without hesitation, I had my character pull out a few rations and hand over a portion to the kid. Suddenly, my character was flooded with a bunch of orphan kids, all begging for food. As this happened, I turned and asked DM if we were going to a place where we could get some more food. I had enough rations between my character and her direwolf to be able to feed all of the kids who showed up. DM said there were going to be a place where we could get food and that I did not have enough food for all the kids, but that if everyone in the party gave up the rest of their rations, that we could feed all of the kids. I immediately turned to the party and started to ask if everyone to give up the rations, started to try and explain that we could buy more food, but I was cut off by Rogue. Rogue had been getting irritated throughout this whole interaction, but apparently this was the last straw as he narrated his character walking over to one of the children and pulling out a dagger. He said, both in-game and out-of-game, that he was going to count down to 10, and if I hadn't left by then, that he was going to kill the kid. Well, Rogue is a psychopath, pulling a knife and threatening to kill a child. It's a child. They're trying to feed a poor orphan a child. You kidding me? I mean, if you just don't want to give up your rations, you could just say no. If you're that greedy about it, fat ass. I immediately panicked. As I mentioned before, I have a massive soft spot for children, and was terrified that any of these fictional kids would get hurt. So I tried to explain my plan to Rogue and negotiated with the DM to try and make it to where I could have my character feed all the kids, all while Rogue counted down. I remember getting physically upset as the countdown was happening, both at the prospect that Rogue would follow through with this threat, and that I felt like no one was listening to me. Despite my effort to persuade or negotiate my way into a better solution, Rogue reached the end of the countdown and turned to DM saying that he wanted to stab the kid in front of him. DM didn't even make Rogue roll, said the Rogue killed the kid and all the orphans scattered. Killing a kid over rations? Are you serious? What is wrong with it? What is wrong with the Rogue and what is wrong with the DM for allowing this? Christ. I was absolutely livid for this. And I believe at this point I started to tear up. I was on the verge of crying. I was visibly upset at this turn of events, had my character start to yell at Rogue. Admittedly, I probably got too upset over the turn of events at this point, but don't worry, it gets worse. Well, the exact details of how the next events happen are admittedly very fuzzy on my part, since the story was years ago. The important part is that the party ended up kidnapped and taken down into the sewers under the city. We're taken to have an audience with the leader of a secret crime syndicate that was apparently stationed in the city, and quickly learned that the child of this crime boss was the orphan the Rogue had stabbed. Immediately, the crime boss, referred to as CB for the rest of the story, asked the entire party who was responsible for killing the child. I, being admittedly still angry out of the game, had my character rat out Rogue, start to explain the whole situation, only to be interrupted by Rogue saying that I had a choice of not killing the kid if I had just given up on feeding all the children. I then pointed out that I was just trying to feed all the kids, and if everyone had just given up some of their rations, we could have fed all of the children and then just bought more rations. CB then interrupted the argument and said that he had a decision about who was responsible. I admittedly was a little too proud at this moment, and I genuinely thought the Rogue was going to be punished for killing the kid. Much to my surprise, however, CB had all the guards grab my character and tie her up in a magical rope no one could break. What the hell? This makes no sense. Are the DM and Rogue and saying like, aren't they in cahoots with this thing? Did they pre-plan for this? This is... what the hell? This doesn't make sense. I was absolutely stunned, and I didn't understand why I was being punished, as DM explained that CB appreciated Rogue for killing the kid, because CB couldn't have a weak kid. DM also explained that my character was being punished for being weak, and that CB was actually supposed to be the final boss of the one-shot, and it was skipped straight to him through killing his kid. The Rogue killed the kid. What are you talking about? And killing the kid for being weak? What kind of... I mean, yeah, I know some tough parents, but like, awarding the Rogue for killing the kid? And the reason of this is because the Rogue was being a complete unhinged jackass. What? This makes no sense. Back in the game, CB explained that the party could have my character back only after they did 3 things for him, and that every hour the ropes around my character would tighten, killing my character in 24 hours if the tasks were not completed. Note, once again, this was my first ever time playing D&D, and I was no older than 12 or 13 at the time. I was incredibly upset, but at the time I didn't say anything because I just thought that this is how D&D goes, and I thought I was just being a sore loser. But now looking back, I know I should have let the DM know that I was feeling upset. The barbarian must have said something to DM, right? Must have been like, hey, I got 2 new people here. They're brand new, never played the game before. Why isn't the DM doing anything about this? What is going on here? Anyway, the first task given to the party was a simple riddle, especially the one with the seed, the chicken, and the fox. We have to get all across a gorge with the various rules about what can and cannot be left alone together. I immediately spoke up because I already knew this riddle and knew how to solve it. I had my character ask CB if she was allowed to solve it. CB reluctantly agreed and had my character explain the solution. CB said my solution was correct, and then said that the other 2 tasks had to be performed by the party with no input from my character. I was once again upset that I couldn't participate, but convinced DM to let me control my dire wolf instead of my character. Honestly, I don't remember what the last 2 tasks were, but I do remember that my direwolf was absolutely no help on the task, and on top of that was completely ignored by the party members whenever I did try to help. So I was left doing literally nothing while the party was having fun solving the tasks. Yay, the new player gets to sit out while everybody else gets to have fun, while the player gets to be literally strangled with magical rope for 24 hours. Yay, fun. I started to get more and more frustrated as time went on, and I really wanted to participate, but knew I couldn't do anything. Finally, the party completed both tasks with 1 in-game hour left before my character would die. I was really anxious at this point for the party to get back to CCB so that my character would be released, but relieved that the party had a whole hour to spare. Relieved until the NPC that was with the party suggested that the party stop for a leisurely brunch before going to get my character, that is. I was honestly on the verge of tears, frustrated as the party narrated going inside a tavern for a leisurely brunch while my character was minutes from dying. Okay, yeah, no, the party sucks. Your party member, the new player, is being strangled by a rope and have 1 hour left before they're completely dead. What do? It's fine. Let's go have a leisurely brunch. What have you got? An hour to kill? The whole party was having fun and joking while I tried to get the party to go and save my character. But all my attempts to ask the party members out of game to help was met with, "Oh, we have plenty of time, it'll be fine." Finally, I got fed up and had my direwolf burst inside the tavern. It was made to wait outside, and physically try to drag the party members outside. My direwolf was just kicked out again, so I said that my direwolf would just bark and howl non-stop until the party left to go save my character. Bit annoyed, the DM relented, said the NPC was cut the brunch short and the party headed back to CCB, freeing my character only minutes before she would have died. Wow, hilarious the DM is annoyed about that. Oh DM, you don't like the fact that the player you trapped in started killing doesn't want to be killed? Wow, what a surprise. Seriously, what does this DM get off to? After that, the session was practically over. I can't imagine we played for more than half an hour after that, but despite it all, I continued to play D&D and even played with the same group a second time, where I actually was able to play and help the party through things. As I said at the beginning, I don't think the story is the worst horror story that I've ever heard, but it definitely was a frustrating experience, especially for my first ever D&D game. Despite it though, I've been playing D&D for years now and have been running my own games for about 5 years, so at the very least I'm glad I was able to get through this experience without a bad taste towards D&D as a whole. And that I think is the best part, the fact that the players seems to want to keep playing D&D, and even DMs as well, that they didn't let this first experience ruin their D&D enjoyment as a whole. That is a good thing, but I mean seriously, the other players and the DM specifically, they suck. What is this? It's terrible. Note, I was talking to Wizard about this whole situation right before posting this, and they wanted to add a few details. First off, Wizard said they were teasing DM before the game, and while they didn't think that they were being annoying, the teasing may have been the reason for their character getting immediately paralyzed, or at the very least felt like retaliation to Wizard. Second, not only did Wizard and I have no information on D&D, Wizard reminded me that the mechanics of the game were not explained to us at all before we started playing, and both the DM and Rogue would get upset at Wizard and I when we didn't know how our characters worked. Oh wow, really, what a surprise when new people that trying the game out don't know how the game works. How do you expect people to know how the game works when they never played it, they never tried it, they never experienced it? Absolutely unreasonable asshats. Also, there were some issues before the game started about how my Beastmaster Ranger couldn't have an animal companion because only druids could have animal companion. Wait, were they playing like a different edition of D&D? That's the only thing I could think of, is maybe they're playing a different edition of D&D that maybe didn't have that, but like in D&D 5e, there's a Beastmaster and you have a beast that you can have. What? That doesn't make sense. Finally, Wizard mentioned that the thing the DM and Rogue were hostile towards Wizard and I because they were significantly older than us and they were both Barbarian's older siblings. It is very possible that Barbarian kind of forced DM and Rogue to teach us how to play, and they were upset about it, and so made the goal to mess with us. While this obviously doesn't excuse the fact that they were being unfair towards us, it might be a bit more of an explanation. But yeah, thanks for reading, I guess. As the story for today, I suppose there's not much to really say, except, I mean, I'm glad things worked out, and this seemed like a pretty terrible experience overall, but it was also a learning experience, and it doesn't seem like it turned off the OP's love and enjoyment for D&D, and that's a good thing. And that'll be our last story for today. I hope you enjoyed yourselves, and thanks so much for watching. If you like what I do here, consider subscribing, liking, whatever it is, and leave me feedback in the comments, whether for the story or for myself. Anyway, I'll see you next time in more tales tomorrow. See ya.